Hello, this is the week 8 video lecture for day 1 concepts. We're gonna dive more into the research summary, primary research methods, and what is a progress report, because you're gonna have to complete that. We click on understanding concepts, which brings us to the two main ideas: purpose statement, primary research. So your purpose statement, you've drafted something like that before for other classes. For my class, if the one you draft for this week as part of an assignment, it doesn't work for you later, or you're like, I don't really like it, you can change it. That's okay. But for this week, I would like for you to practice so that you have some sort of anchor, some idea of why you are gathering the primary research, what you're really after, an idea of who is going to care about it most, because for this summary, you're imagining I'm working for a corporation or a nonprofit. I'm pulling together this research summary because my company is invested in it somehow. And maybe by highlighting the issue, my company would commission some sort of internal group to propose a solution to it. That's where you're coming from in terms of frame of mind for the assignment. And that's who your audience for the piece is going to be. And I'll just say it over and over. It should be a higher authority, someone you're working for in your imagination, a company, nonprofit you're working for. And you're not only looking at a topic, but you're looking at a specific location. It doesn't have to be Florida, but a specific location. And then you're also thinking about, as a part of the report, who is most impacted that's living in the area of where my issue is taking place or where I'm focusing on. Who is it impacting? Because I'm going to tell my bosses about that in the report, but who it's affecting, the impacted population, is not who you're drafting the report for. Primary research. So this week you will be writing a progress report saying this is what's happening with primary research, but you're not going to be doing it for yourself, as odd as that is. You're going to be interviewing another classmate via email, phone, I don't care how you get in touch with them, about their data collection methods, what they've done, sort of like checking up on them. And we'll talk about that later. But in thinking about what type of primary research method you're going to use, a survey, or you are going to use the tweet map and just kind of look at where people are talking about your issue and talk about that for whatever reason. Despite how people respond to your survey or whatever tweet you bring up, if what is said in the tweet or the survey result, it seems untrue or even like silly or stupid, however you want to categorize it, the feeling behind what is said can still be analyzed for, some in the impacted population might feel this way. And you can acknowledge that it has some discrepancies and logos or whatever, but it's still worth analyzing any sort of information for a professional purpose in terms of how it could be impacting the community, how they're feeling, and acknowledging, the facts is also important, but looking at user sentiment is also helpful. So shifting away from this, I want to explain some more details about primary research collection methods, because I hate to just throw y'all into the deep end on it, but this is a small project and I am going to throw you in a little bit, but I'm going to help you. So if you decided to do a survey and you looked at that sort of matrix worksheet thing that was from last module and you're like, I still don't quite understand what I'm doing, you're doing a survey, you could start with one of the easiest things, Google Forms. You Google Forms. It takes you to this page. You go to Google Forms. They have some set up for you that you can kind of tailor to your needs. If you don't want to just start with a blank one, which I kind of find intimidating. So I start with one that kind of, oh, it might fit, and I'll type in what I want. And then when you have one, it's gonna have a question and a response tab. Your questions will show up here. You can create different sections. You can add different things if you want. I'm gonna delete that one because I don't need it. You can make multiple choice kinds of things, or is someone just gonna type in a short sentence there? So you can do all of these things and you can disseminate it however you'd like. Survey Monkey link, or on the Reddit survey forum, on Facebook or something. Once you start to get responses, this tab will start to light up with the number of responses you get. You click it so you can look at them. And what I love about Google Forms is it already shows you visualizations, which is cool. You don't necessarily need one for this project, but it can help with your credibility and with how are you gonna review the information you're getting. It helps if you can see, you can visualize what is most important about the responses. So Google Forms already kind of does that for you. If you have text-based answers, like I did in this little form that I created for something else, you can, because it's like, how am I going to sift through all these and really see a visualization of what is being said, or what the most impactful words, if that's what you're after? You can copy and paste those sorts of responses. And I already did that. And you can go to something like Voyant Tools and you can copy and paste all of those, and you can hit reveal. And it's going to bring about that cute little word cloud, and you can see which one is the most kind of prevalent word, or which terms are said how many times, if there's different links between the words. And you can make your own associations about that for the research summary, because you're basing it on your own primary research that all you did was you collected it via Google Forms, and then you collated it, deciding like, how can I review it and think more about how these this text-based answers, how they relate to one another. And you might infer that, you know, the word vaccine and no, or the words vaccine and anti could mean blah, blah, blah about how the impacted population feels about this issue. You could say those sorts of things, or elicit those sorts of analysis from something like Voyant Tools, which is an option. You don't have to use this, but it's a way to look at text-based answers that you might get from something like a survey. So we have Google Forms for a survey option. There's Facebook surveys. And if you Google Facebook survey, it might bring you to this page, which talks about how to create a survey if you have a Facebook page and not like your own Facebook. But then somebody posted about how to post a survey to your own Facebook page, or like your own not like if you have a business Facebook page. I'm confusing that. So there's ways that you can create a Facebook survey, and some of you might already know that, but I didn't know that. You can create an Instagram poll. You can use what I mentioned before, Survey Monkey. But any way that you decide to create your survey, you should try to distribute it on any and every channel, any and every medium that you can find, so you can elicit the most responses. It's okay to ask family and friends, knowing that the answers you get from them might not even be, you know, worthwhile in terms of like they're going to kind of just bullshit it, but at least you'll get some user sentiment about the topic. And remembering that There's a link. Where is that? There's a student survey sheet where you guys can pay it forward by taking each other's surveys. You post your survey, you hope people are going to respond, and you check back later when this fills up, and then you take everyone else's survey too. And if everybody did that, and even if you don't create a survey, you visit this link, which is, I believe, linked in one of the discussion posts. Then if we all did that, we'd all get some responses and it would be helpful. And sometimes, again, I've seen students get like 50 to 100 responses, not just from this, but from sharing their survey wherever they could. I'm going to pause it for a second here. Okay, so if you do a survey, those are some options. If you do decide I'm going to look at tweets or I want to use the cool OmniSci map, it is a little intimidating, or like, what can I do with it? But again, you type in a keyword, you start zooming in. I've already zoomed in on Florida. And if your topic is like something like education, then you don't even necessarily need to hover over these little things and see what people are saying, although you can do that and it's cool. You can just say like, there's a concentration of discussion in blah, blah, blah area. And that indicates interest in education in this area. It's a topic of concern or discussion. You could just say something like that. And you would have to then copy and control print screen where you kind of zoomed in or what you're talking about. Get a picture to add it to your research summary. You're not looking to build visualizations. This is not project 2, but if you are going to use a tool or something like Google Maps or OmniSci Tweet, you're using that to look at how people are feeling or what's going on in the area concerning your topic. You need a picture and you need to refer to it in the text and explain its relevance and all of that. So you could use OmniSci Tweet for that reason, or if you are you're gonna zoom in, you're gonna be, looking at what people are actually saying and to get a general idea, or see like, or if you're concentrating on St. Pete or something, then you could, you could hover over them and see it, what people are saying, and just look at a few of those and say, oh, that's how they feel about education or schools in that area or whatever. You could also decide how many you might want to copy and paste, and at the bottom, I don't know if you can see, there's a counter there that shows how many I'm highlighting, I'm looking at. Maybe you're like, I'm going to stop at the 30 range. You're going to copy and paste it into a blank doc. And I've already done that. We would only be doing that if we are planning on how can I look at this in Voyant tools to see any related terms. And if you do that using the OmniSci Tweet map, you're going to get a lot of dates, you're going to get a lot of @ symbols. So you would have to clean it up a little. You're going to get a lot of the URLs that you also have to clean up, because if we didn't clean it up and we just copy and pasted it into OmniSci, or I'm sorry, into Voyant tools, we would get a lot of words we don't care about. You see there's t.co or HTTPS that has really nothing to do with what we're looking at, and it clutters up the results. If we did clean it up, which I did over, we get more of an idea of words that matter, and I didn't clean up that much. So, but then if you were looking at this and you said, okay, in that area, school is a topic of discussion for residents, and they might be really concerned with the state of middle or charter schools. That's important to them. That's something that you could guesstimate based on this primary research you elicited by online observation and filtering it through a a digital research tool. That's something you could infer and add to your report. And then again, just like with OmniSci Tweet Map, you would control print screen. So you could add a picture to refer to in your research. And stuff. Because I've had students who did that very thing. They used OmniSci Tweet Map. They decided on an area. You don't have to do this. But if you decide on an area and then you start zooming in on those tweets and hovering over them to look at user sentiment, or then you click on the tweet and you look at what they're actually talking about. If they say they posted a picture, it could just give you an idea of what they're feeling, or you search actual Twitter. And for these examples, the student was focused on Sulphur Springs. They even went to Instagram to kind of see what people were posting about for that area, what they cared about in the community. They used TripAdvisor to look at the restaurants, and these are different students, so it's not the same project. Something like greatschools.org has reviews about schools. Trulia has reviews about just different things going on in any sort of community. Scholarcommons.usf.edu has dissertations on different issues, and you could, I only had one student do this, but they ran dissertation chapters through Voyant to see what was some prevailing words there. Biggerpockets.com, some forums where people talk about real estate and they kind of review different areas, and you could, that's primary, those are online reviews, it's online observation. Volunteermatch.org, something like that could be a primary source. You call the volunteers that match in your area and you could interview them. I've had students do that. Or even if you find a secondary source, like an article about your topic, you could follow up with someone mentioned in the article, or whoever wrote the article. You'd be surprised if you reach out to newspapers, sometimes they reach right back. Or if the secondary source might just give you an idea for, I could interview someone like that I know. Because then we come to the third sort of thing you could do that we haven't mentioned. That we talked about surveys. I showed you some of those. We talked about online observation and what that means. And then there's interviews. And that means interviews of like career professionals tied to your topic. And that could be someone you know, it doesn't matter, or someone you looked up, website. If your topic is education, then maybe you interview a principal. So if you're thinking interview is the way to go, then that's fine. But then you need to, for the sake of your progress report and getting things ready, what you need to do is, what type of questions are you going to ask? How are you going to send it? The email? Are you going to reach out via social media? Are you going to call them? How are you going to Zoom with the people to ask your questions? You need to reach out soon because time is limited. Complete this, and whoever you're reaching out to, their time is limited too, just like yours. So you need to hurry up. And I'd say an interview is one of the hardest things to do because of you're matching up time with someone else, relying on them to get you those answers, that part of your primary research. So these three types. You have to choose one, and you have to include one type of primary research in your research summary. You have to, or your grade will not be what you wanted it to be. Looked at that kind of stuff. I'm gonna get out of all of this, and I'm gonna remind you that there's a virtual conference that you could take part of if all of this is still like, I don't know what to do. And there's a virtual conference on March 3rd, and you refer to the sign up sheet. The way to access the Zoom, the virtual conference is right there. And we'll look at posing a research question for your research summary and turning it into a purpose statement. So this exercise is taking your topic, seeing if you could, can you take your topic and put it into a question format? That, like, what are you after? You're looking at, and this student was looking at grocery stores. Because they wanted to know how people are eating, you know, healthy lifestyle. They wanted to know that. So then they created a question that kind of encompasses what they're looking for in the research summary, what they're after. They imagine themselves maybe working for, I don't know, so they were drafting the memo for that kind of company that they imagined themselves working for. That's their question. And that's what you're going to do first. You're going to kind of maybe list your ideas, maybe list who am I even writing this for? Who am I working for, quote unquote? And those things might help you get to, okay, what kind of question would anchor my entire research summary? Once you have that question, you're not done with this assignment, because you need to turn it into an assertive statement. In doing so, think of, you have a question, how could you answer it? How could you answer that statement or that question to build a statement? Right now, you're going to be guessing because you don't know. You don't necessarily have your research. Later, that's why it might change. But for now, if you were to answer that question, maybe the answer could be like, grocery stores in the area are, I don't know, subpar. That's not a great word to use, but so may indicate for Tampa. So you would be guessing based on what little information you have. You're answering your own question, and that is going to be your purpose statement, the last sentence at the end of your introduction. And here's the actual one the student created. The types of grocery stores that are in the area vary and may reflect the health and eating habits of the population. This is how they amended it once they had information, and they tried to leave out kind of biased language, subpar and poor. You don't really want to use those types of words. And so they hedged back from that a little bit. But you have your purpose statement. Once you have that, you enter it as a text entry box. You're not worried about MLA formatting or whatever. You're turning it in by March 2nd at 11:59 p.m. And then the second thing you're going to do is draft a research progress report. And as I said, you're not giving me a report on what you've done so far in terms of your primary research. You're going to be paired with someone, and you would click on people. And group exercises, project groups, I need to create a tab that says, it's going to say research progress report groups. You would see that tab when you click that, And then similar to group exercises, you would uncollapse them and see who you're paired with. It's only going to be one other person, but I haven't created it yet and I will. But when you find your name under research progress group report groups, you're going to get in touch with your teammate however you can. Maybe you just create a Google Doc and email them and say, here's my questions. What are yours? You want these sorts of pieces of information answered for you. But after that, I don't just want you to turn in, a document, a bunch of words typed up. I want you to turn in a pretty looking report. By that, I mean something that looks like a progress report. And if you were to search Canva or Microsoft Word, Google Docs for templates, you're going to find something similar to this in which, you're just listing sorts of things and you have headers and such. And quickly you could scan it and understand the progress being made. But there's also an attention to how it looks. Things are separated. There's something in terms of a border. It's weird, but a little bit similar to project 2. You're worried about the content because you need to get the answers, but you're also worried about how it looks. If your assigned teammate never gets in touch with you, you try and you're like, oh, they're not responding to me. Don't care about them. Submit a report for yourself. Answer these questions yourself. Draft your research progress report and submit it. Do not email me about, oh no, they never got back to me. I don't care. Because this is more of a visual report with informal listing of question or of answers, I don't care about MLA APA formatting, and you shouldn't either. It's due by March 5th at 11:59 p.m. And I'll see you for the next recording for week 8.